Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pitch Please, the podcast where people who play games pitch ideas to people who make them. We've got like a first for the podcast this week, right, Tom?
Yeah. We've got
a world first.
A world first.
world exclusive.
World
exclusive.
We have a returning guest. Matt Castle is back from I Love You, the Kidnapper fame. Back to pitch another idea. But before we get to Matt, we'll go through the regular rotation of Chris is also here.
Hello, I'm here. I'm very tired, so things might get a little bit weird.
Oh, good. Also, no introduction this time.
That was my introduction.
Oh,
that was
okay.
it.
He was too tired to think of one.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And also,
hello,
James.
I'm still James and still Drink More Glurp developer.
What's the next game going to be called?
I love you, Kidnapper developer, and
that is still my favorite title. And I've got to be honest, it's a personal favorite for me as well. Out of all the games that we've talked about,
I'm honoured.
Yeah,
fuck.
That's not what you said yesterday, Alex. I mean, what's good? No,
let's not talk about that.
And you just shat all over.
I love how you can tell who is the guest by how Alex is talking about the other guests. Every time, like Matt Castle's here, so I Love You, the Kidnapper is his favourite game.
I see.
Yeah, everything I say is based on the assumption that all our guests don't listen to the podcast.
Anyway, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing over in wherever you are now? Is it Bath?
Yeah, Bath. I'm in Bath. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm just lazing around, enjoying some free time at the moment. Yeah, it's all good.
And coming up with some fresh, hot ideas, right?
Yes, basically.
The idea that you have today, how are you feeling about it? Just like before you go into it too much, like, okay, you've got I Love You, the Kidnapper.
That's the bar.
That's a 10.
That's a 10, yeah.
How close are you to that with this one? How are you feeling?
Well, this is very much the difficult second album.
Okay. No, okay.
I would say it's very different. If you were a fan of I Love You, the Kidnapper and my previous work, you may find this one quite a departure.
So
you may not like it.
This is like Obra Dinn to Pitch Please. Not Pitch Please. Papers,
Please. Papers, Please.
That's us.
Oh, is this like your concept album? Are you doing like a Lord of the Rings concept album?
No, I'd say it's more like this is me selling out. So, we did something quite interesting and now we're going to try and make something a bit more mainstream and popular.
Sounds like my second game.
Please, let's hear what you've got. Pitch please, Matt.
Pitch please.
So the pitch is really quite simple. Last time I hit you with this sort of reverse Deus Ex, which was actually a very messy pitch because then I had to explain what that meant, and there was a question of whether that meant you played as a computer that you hack,
or an old man that pisses himself.
But you were a man. This time you are also a man. Well, you're a person. It could be a woman, but in my head it's a man.
Okay.
Who gets their hand stuck to a gun that can't stop shooting.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Daniel Radcliffe film?
Yeah, there is. Actually, that's true. That may sound very similar to a man who gets his hands attached to guns, but I think what makes this unique is that it has infinite bullets. It is an infinity gun,
right?
And it keeps on shooting, and he has no control over when it shoots.
Right.
But
okay. So is it like a bullet hell, but with the sticks pushed down constantly?
It's a bullet hell, but you are the one. You're the one sort of spraying the bullets out. You are the bullet hell, and what I sort of see the thrust of this game being is that it's a challenge to negate the damage that such a weapon would do. So it's kind of an anti-shooter in that you are trying to not kill
friends.
You're basically trying to where's the best place to shoot where you don't hurt people, because I've got a bit of a more of a narrative pitch for it if you want that.
That sounds great.
God,
I will say one thing. This does sound like it would be a great rhythm game, because obviously the bullet, if they go off on like a beat, then you're like, you know when you're going to shoot, and you have to do everything to the rhythm of.
Well, perhaps that's what he has in mind.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those MLG videos where it's just dubstep and the gun's firing to the beat of the song.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is that
So
it, Matt?
I'll admit, like, there's not much like genre structure to this one in terms of I haven't thought much about how it would work. So yeah, a rhythm game could definitely be in the mix. But for a basic pitch of how this scenario comes out, you are a person and you go to a laboratory where they've made an infinity gun.
Willingly.
And you get your hands stuck in it. So that's
Right.
that much I've said. But there are kind of two tiers to this challenge. One is you've got this infinity gun, and obviously that's going to cause problems with, the law and all this stuff. Yeah. But you also have stuff that you want to achieve on this particular day. Like, it's quite an important day for you.
You're going on a date.
You've got to do things like go to your kid's birthday party.
Go on a date. Job interview.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I sort of thought you've got a lot of stuff you've got to achieve while having an infinity gun stuck to your hand.
Okay. Now, are you trying to hide it?
Trying to hide it, or just do your best, really. Like,
I can't imagine there's much hiding.
It's very loud.
So
You got a thought?
So going from the rhythm idea, as soon as you said you're just trying to go about your normal day, I immediately thought it's Octodad, but he's got guns. So like you're at your wedding and just you're just constantly shooting. Something's happening. I don't know how he has a day. Like, how does he sleep? There's a gun going off.
These are all questions that we need to answer.
I think
he
sleeps like Daredevil does. So in a submersion tank with his arm out. So he's like, he can't hear it.
Oh, right.
Shooting.
Right.
Air defense. So Matt, is his twin
that's
stick? Is this
assuming
first person?
He's going to survive a day of having an infinity gun
That's true.
on his hand to get to the sleeping stage.
Yeah. I can't imagine he will. Surely, if he's not going to shoot himself, he's going to get shot by the police.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the police know.
One of those two things.
Gary's got the
Let's hire
crazy.
this guy. He's great. He was
Crazy
saving
infinity
loads
guns.
of money on bullets.
Maybe that's a path you can go down. You can join the army. And
Can I just say, I love that this is Matt's idea of selling out. That this is the big blockbuster game.
He didn't tell you. It's got a gun in it.
This is actually his pitch for the next Avengers
anti-shooter.
film. The Infinity Gun. With
how are you seeing these guns? Is it like a machine gun? Is it a constant,
a
constant drilling of bullets?
One of the fun things about this gun is that it kind of evolves as the day, as it's like powering up or warming up, it becomes different kind of weapons. So it starts off maybe as like a handgun, but then it becomes like a shotgun, a machine gun. Basically, you work through the arsenal of weapons you might work through in a common FPS, but like they're obviously becoming bigger and more dangerous guns as the game goes on.
Yeah, it's like gun game.
Oh my god! Imagine having to go and see your children's your recital or something at the school, but your gun has evolved into a shotgun.
RPG mode.
How are you going to deal with that? That's good. RPG mode. Yeah.
This is basically...
I've got to achieve these 10 things, and you get to pick the order based on your knowledge of what the gun's going to become. So you're like,
I see.
Where do I least want a rocket launcher? At the recital. I've got to go and renew my driving license. I've got to go to the post office.
You don't want the rocket launcher in the post office. That's a very small area.
Well, you don't really. The reality of this is you don't really want any of these guns anywhere.
This is kind of making me think a little bit of Untitled Goose Game.
Oh my god!
Do you know, like you have a list, a to-do list, and you have a town, and you have to go to these different places in the town and do things. But instead of a goose,
but the goose is a gun.
Yeah, the goose is a never-ending shooting gun.
It feels to me it's very much a mix of, again, in my head, I don't know what for you, Matt. Like, for you, is it a twin stick? Is it a first person? Is it open world?
Probably a third person, because I'd quite like to see. I think you need to see the body attached to the gun, like panicking, like he's constantly looking at it, like, no, and he's like You know how?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, like with his other hand, he's constantly like, "Oh, go," like gesturing, like, "I'm so sorry," or like, "Go, run." He's like pointing. Like he's just like, "Get away from the gun," or he's like pointing at it and going, "It's the gun, not me. It's the gun."
No one can hear him because it's so loud.
Well, that's it. You've really got to shout. Or maybe you could like that could be another mechanic. You have to shout into a mic, like
early game of coughing to disguise the sound of the gun. Like,
sorry about that.
Oh, that's good.
It starts off silence.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Or could you? I suppose maybe. Do you have to try and find ways to silence it by putting something on with your other hands?
Yeah, that's it. So. Like, I'll admit that. In as much as I have thought about how it could work as a game, like I thought, or maybe there is a puzzle element to it, like where's the safest place to shoot in these various scenarios, or maybe like a it's almost like an anti-score attack. Like you've got to shoot the most worthless stuff in the room, you know. So like you're a bull in a china shop basically, and you're like,
I see.
What's worth more, this vase or like the guy who runs the shop?
So is it almost like a par, like with golf? You're trying to keep your score as low as possible.
Yeah,
like by
maybe
the damage. You're trying to keep the damage down.
But that's quite arcadey, and I think maybe undermines like the drama of the situation.
Maybe it can be like a Telltale game. A Telltale game, but every like second is another split choice where you're like, right, do I shoot the vase or do I shoot the dude? Do I shoot the door or do I shoot
I feel like you need to have control over them, though, right? You need to have control over the character moving around with the gun shooting constantly.
I like the idea of like we've all become so good at, so focused on shooting very tiny targets. I like the idea of like trying to like paint the bullets like around them, so you end up with like lots of like bullet hole outlines of people on the wall,
nice.
Like in the cartoons.
Yeah. So it starts off handgun and then evolves like submachine gun, shotgun, minigun. You're basically like Barrett at this point from Final Fantasy VII, rocket launcher, and then
just like
maybe like there's some like lasery stuff,
Gauss
or
rifle,
bullets that go through walls or something.
Oh yeah.
Is there a cure? Is there any way to stop it?
Chop your arm off, maybe.
Wouldn't you just do that?
That's too easy.
I feel like that's too easy.
You could just do that. Yeah.
You would just do that.
Yeah, you do that early on.
It would just grow back immediately. Perhaps,
maybe that's the mission. You're trying to find the person who did this to you, right?
But they won't let you near a
also go to your recital.
And also do your daily tasks.
You're trying to get shit done, but you're also a doting father / mother, and you've got
a parent who's like on their they've got like their last chance. They've kind of messed up a lot, and like, this is your partner is like, if you mess up if you don't do these 5 things, you're getting divorced, and you're like,
I feel like she would understand.
Well, no, because she's sick of your excuses.
And now you've got a gun. And now you've got a gun attached to your hand.
Yeah, but then she's like, that's what you always say stuff like this.
There's the name.
It's not me. It's the gun. I love the idea of just watching this character just not even say it. They're just mouthing it at this point. It's not me. Not gun. I've got a gun for a hand.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh God.
But it could have a more, like, it could start off with a bit more of a narrative-y, thrillery element. If it is like this handgun's going to go off in 2 minutes, and like you're in a bank and you're trying to get like your mortgage application in quite quickly, and
then it turns into a robbery.
You've got to work out like, can you do it in 2 minutes, or are you trying to like basically explain to the person, listen, in 2 minutes I am going to shoot, and it's
it's like I don't know, Speed, or
this
it's like a
Saw
film where there's some malevolent baddie who's done this to you, and you've got to be like, do all these tasks so you can kind of set it up thematically that way.
God, like Old Boy.
Yeah, except the tasks are also things that will appease your wife.
And then it turns out the wife is the person who did it, and is like, "Oh, you did it. It's the only way I could get you to do your job."
This is quite similar to the twist in "I Love You, the Kidnapper."
A classic
Well, that's the classic Matt Castle twist, right?
And everyone's
twist.
like, "Oh, I played his first game. The wife's going to be you're going to be married to the baddie at the end."
Are we sure this wouldn't work as a VR game? Because I feel like that also could work. Like,
I was
third
thinking
person's good.
I feel like that VR cheapens it.
You're holding the actual thing, and
then you can use your other hand to tell people to,
I quite like the play acting of the other hand.
Yeah.
Like
you can.
Because then
how would that work though in terms of actual game? Like Chris, how would you, if you were to have your hand, like waving your other hand around in VR, how does that translate mechanically into?
Well, gesture recognition is a thing. Like you could, you can recognize certain things. I was just thinking with the other hand with the gun, you would be as tired as the character because holding your hand, like if you want to do that constantly, shoot upwards, it becomes very tiring. So eventually you start trying to think of clever ways of trying to angle this gun.
I could play that game in half-hour bouts, though. I think, and then that would just knacker me.
So the thing is with VR is that you'll notice that you can play games for longer when you actually move. You fatigue less because your body's not used to standing dead still. It actually fatigues you quicker. So if we make them have to react to certain things and give them an area to walk around in, then you could probably play it for longer without realizing.
So I'm imagining that the game, if it's in VR, it's a on rails kind of like Time Crisis, but all you're doing is watching this guy go about his life. He walks into the bank, and you're just moving his arms around and just pointing him in directions that aren't, going to hit the ceiling or the floor or other people in the bank or whatever. And that's how it's played. However, what's stopping you from just pointing the arm down?
You shoot your feet
at the ground.
I don't know. You do damage to yourself.
Okay.
You have your children walk either side of you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Holding onto your trouser legs because they're scared.
They're scared because you've got a gun.
That still applies to the third person as well, though, doesn't it? How do we solve the whole? You could just point the gun down.
Well, it's either that, or it's either VR, or it's like a top-down twin-stick shooter, and you're just aiming the arms in different directions, and you only shoot in like horizontal planes. And that's another way it could be done.
I mean, I don't know if the design of the gun could be structured in such a way that like your arm can't hinge down enough.
You're constantly pointing forwards.
It's like brace. It's designed to be like an amazing weapon. That's always that's quite heavy, so it's got like a fixed brace on it. So your arm's always at a right angle, so you can never shoot down.
Oh,
it has like auto aim.
It's on like a trolley. It's on like a trolley, and you're just kind of walking around like you're holding it up.
Is the gun
that makes sense?
Sentient? Is it like some sort of idle hands type thing where the gun's trying to point at stuff you don't want it to, and you've got to constantly like stop?
It could be.
It could be
definitely trying to hone in on what it considers to be a threat.
Sentient gun who has from the first game. From the kidnapper, right?
What?
And it's, do the episode of Rick and Morty where he gets that big muscly arm and it wants to murder everyone and he just sort of communicates to him like that. It's that principle, right? The gun is communicating to you. It has its own goals, but you have your own goals and you have to, separate your time. What does the gun
want to do? Just kill things.
Presumably. And you're like, no, sir. He wants to kidnap people because,
Maybe he doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to kill people. I think he just wants to ruin your day. Like if you go and view a new car, and you're thinking of buying a new car because the last one is
dying
ruined.
would ruin your day.
Dying would ruin it, but I'm thinking like you're viewing the car and you're like looking around. You go on the interior and you're like, gun's going to start firing now, isn't it? It's gonna blow out the steering wheel. I really don't want to do that. I need this car. So it's kind of the opposite of that Street Fighter thing where you destroy the car. This is where you're trying to keep the car in top condition before the gun blows it to smithereens.
I definitely like that scenario. I like the idea of and that's the car maybe you get for the rest of the game. So like the state you leave it in is the state you've got to put up with. So if it's covered in bullet holes, it's obviously going to look pretty suspicious.
Yeah, or you blow out the tires.
I don't think Alex realizes that he's muted.
No, he hasn't realized.
Oh yeah, whoops, sorry.
He was talking that entire time.
If you destroy your car with the gun, you have to take it to the mechanics, but then that obviously creates a difficult situation.
That's a whole new
because
situation.
your gun's firing at the
Well, except the mechanic's like, what have you done to this car? And you just like point at your arm, and the mechanic will be like,
it's the thing.
yeah, I get it.
It's not against the gun. So every situation you have to put them against the gun.
So, if the gun is constantly firing, does that make it a bit more difficult to design a game around? Can you imagine could it work where it only fire you know when it fires in certain bouts, or maybe you don't know when it's going to fire? Would that create another element, or do you think it works better if the gun is just as soon as you get it attached at the beginning, it never stops?
I definitely in my head I see exciting scenes where you're like, there's just loads of stuff you can't shoot, and for that reason there needs to be moments in the game where it is constantly firing beyond your control. But I also do like the idea of like the tension of, you don't know when it's going to go. It's like a pop-up pirate or something. It's
it's just like a pop-up pirate. I think you should have a mechanic where you can almost calm it down. Where there's a
like the baby in Death Stranding.
Like the baby in Death Stranding, yeah. You have to like kind of cradle it and just be like, you can see a meter that's like, if this gets to full, gun's going to start shooting. So you kind of have to do all your daily tasks while also cradling your gun arm to make sure it doesn't fire off.
That's going to be very hard. Like, yeah, I quite like that. That's quite, maybe you have to like sing to it or something.
Yeah, just sit down with it.
Or if there's like a stress meter, could it be directly related to your stress?
Stressometer.
If you get overstressed, then the gun just starts going nuts. It's like an extension of you, but almost.
Oh, yeah. I'm still personally liking the combination of like a GTA with Octodad, because the one thing I like about Octodad is that when you move the stick, it doesn't like lock the arm into place. It just applies the force in that direction. So the arm is constantly moving and you constantly have to adjust. And I think that with a gun that's constantly shooting, having to be like, I need to swing left and then go, oh God, I need to swing right. And then you're trying to constantly fight this thing that's shooting. And every time you shoot, your arm moves a bit because of like recoil and stuff. And I think, and then if you have, the left stick does the other arm and, or however you want to do it. And that's like you telling people to like get a battle, pushing people away. I was trying to shoot off in the other direction.
Chris,
hello.
Could you explain briefly just like how Octodad works in terms of the actual gameplay from the beginning? Like, how does it? Is it just levels, or are you just going about your everyday life?
They're levels. So you have the first one's the wedding, where you have to get married. You have to find like the ring. You have to, and all this whole time you can't make too much mess or do things that's suspicious, because no one knows that you're an octopus, obviously. And there's like a suspicion-ometer. And then but they're just menial tasks. One of them is throw 2 like burgers on a barbecue. In the second mission is set in the house. So it's like make cereal, make coffee, mow the lawn. Menial tasks that become hard because the control scheme doesn't allow them to be easy.
So
and obviously they get a lot harder.
What I like about Octodad is that like when you enter a scene, because you know the setup that you're playing this octopus, it does a good job of putting you in places where you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be a nightmare for an octopus.
Yeah.
And I think this game would also have to have that vibe where you're like, where's the one place you don't want an infinity gun? Oh no, it's an art gallery with like all the precious art. It's children's party, that's sinister, but you know what I mean. It's like,
I think
really delicate.
The shoot that you buy at museum.
That kind of stuff. I think there needs to be like with each level, there's almost like the penny drops at the start, and you're like, oh, of course, this is going to be a nightmare because of
I do like the idea that it's very frantic as well. So you're running to get somewhere, to get this gun off your hand or something. So you maybe there's just one street and you're ducking in and out of buildings, running from the police. So there's a reason for you to go through the china shop or to go through the kids' party or something. There's a clear path that you got to follow, and that sets up your missions. That's your different levels.
But does that work back with like what Matt was saying initially, with just like the having a to-do list from like your wife is very angry and just wants you to get this stuff done for the day?
I think the police overcomplicates it a little bit. It makes you rush when really it's methodical, and it does go back to the rhythm. It might not be a rhythm game, but you know the rhythm of the gun, right? So you know when it's gonna.
The police would increase your stress, and I think, as I said before, when your stress is too high, you start blowing your load.
Right.
See, I think it should just be going off all the time.
What if the fire rate increases the more
stress you get?
Yeah, so it's always going off. But the more frantic things become, the fire rating. So you have to, take a minute.
Idea. So as your suspicion goes up,
to cradle your gun,
calm it down a bit.
Yeah,
and then, but again, I don't. The narrative.
I think it's from one gunshot, from one bullet.
You could have it in your pocket. I don't know it's you, and you're just like, it wasn't me. What?
It's just someone else shooting this.
The more it's obviously you because your coat pocket's going crazy.
Well, that's because so people hear the gunshot and then they maybe investigate the bullet hole. So maybe you're trying to like shoot places where you want people to investigate that isn't you, because that's what people do when there's a shooter.
The gun noise, not the hole.
They look for the hole.
Yeah. Okay. I think suspicion's easy to cover, right? Like your gun fires, everyone's immediately like, "Oh my god, he's got a gun for an arm," and then you're like, "No, calm down, it's the gun." Then everyone's just like, "Oh right, I understand. That's cool. I get it. You've got a gun for an arm."
But there also could be like quite a lot of funny props that make noise that you get access to a different. So like down the central street, there could be like a marching band at one point, and you get like a trumpet, and you're blowing like a trumpet every time it shoots.
Oh my god!
Okay, I like that. That's like in what's that game we played, Tom? The Prisoners, A Way Out.
Oh yeah,
where they steal that bit from the Shawshank Redemption. You have to make it. You have to like every time the lightning strikes or something, the thunder goes.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say there's where they blow a trumpet and
when they get the marching band.
Every time they knock out a guard, they have to blow a trumpet. I would play that game.
Okay, so if the game was at the moment, say if it was the beginning of the game, you get this gun stuck to you, it's constantly firing, or it's not, whatever. But then your wife is like, "This is a list of things you have to do, or we're done." And then you have the day to do them. That's broken down into levels, I guess. Does that work?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Like Hitman.
Yeah. I mean, we've already mentioned two staples of Pitch Please, Octodad and now Hitman. For some reason,
why does Octodad come up so often? That's
because we
quite
come
strange,
up with so many. How do you hide this weird thing that's happened to you?
Oh, have I stumbled into quite well trodden ground here?
No, we haven't mentioned XCOM yet, so you're okay.
We haven't mentioned XCOM, but the last time we mentioned Octodad was when Will came up with the idea that you are a feral child trying to exist in the real world. So it's not quite the same, but it's close. What if the gun has what if you manually fire the gun, but it's got a meter where like it builds up, and if it gets too high, then the gun just starts firing like crazy, and you can reduce the meter by shooting? Or does it just constantly fire?
I feel the consistency and again the rhythm of it is much more like manageable.
I really feel like that feeling, like what Tom was saying about, like the feeling of when it fires, it goes nuts and you can't stop it. But there's also that tension of, okay, it's not firing at the moment. I need to do everything I can to keep it from not firing.
But that does also suggest, but that creates like narrative or structural problems in that you are able to reset scenes to like calm. Like a little part of me is keen to investigate, like if the whole game is just chaos, accumulating and amplifying as it goes on.
Just gets okay.
Because otherwise you've got this structure where it's like you shoot up a shop and somehow you're in the next shop and everyone's cool with it. And no one's like, wait, aren't you the guy from the last shop with the gun on his arm? And you're like, yeah,
that kind of goes to
like, oh wait, I know how this plays out. We're going to shoot this shop up.
The idea that the gun's always firing, but then you're just trying to get to a destination. While I do like the list that your wife's given you, that's more, I feel like that's a level based, that's very Octodad. Everything resets and it's just like, here's a puzzle for you to solve. Right, per level. Whereas I like the idea that it's a continuous stream of bullets.
I mean, you can make your way back to the science lab or wherever it is to get the gun arm off, but in the process, you can appease your wife's tasks. Easy. Just go through the correct route.
I do really like that idea of actually trying to tick off the task, and the tasks are like really menial, just like everyday stuff, like you say, Matt. But
it's just this,
because the gun never stops firing. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and it escalates it because but by the end of the first task, by the time you've gone to the post office, the entire city knows there's some crazy person on the loose with an infinity gun. Yeah. And so then you have to go and put some flowers on her mother's grave or something.
Oh, nice.
And then you have.
But you shot her.
People just accept that's Edward. We know he's got a gun for a hand. Edward gun for hands.
I feel like you would have been put down. You would have been arrested or somehow suppressed very quickly.
No, nice.
I mean, people could sympathise with you, and like you've got it. And right from the start, they're like, "Oh no!" So you like maybe the police aren't like, "We're going to kill this guy," but it's just everyone's on the same page that this guy's unfortunate and got this gun on his hand now, and like they're trying to help you, but you're also trying to because then your wife's really the main threat of the game.
Your wife is very much the bad guy in this.
No, she's not nearby.
But you're that's the thing. She's not bad. Like you've been a bad dad, and you learn to be a good dad through the infinity gun.
Yeah. Right. The moral of the story is something to do with this gun.
It's like it's a bit like Liar Liar, the Jim Carrey film. Right. He's kind of bad. Then something bad happens to him, and he learns to be good.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like the idea that that it's kind of been it's been accepted, and I like the idea of there being like a scene near the beginning where he's in court and the judge is like, you've been found not guilty of this
having
crime.
A gun for
it's not your fault. But while he's saying it, the gun is shooting.
They're like, what law is this even breaking? We don't even have a name for whatever this is.
So does that work then? If towards the beginning of the game, if all this stuff happens, maybe you do see a bit of backstory. I mean, that's how he gets the gun and stuff.
It could be told in flashback from a court case, and based on how you perform throughout the game, decides whether you're guilty at the end. Because the judge is like, you cost the city like $100 million worth of damage.
I like that,
and like that's it's almost like that maybe presents a more levelly structure, but like those are almost like your level rankings, like the amount of damage you do in that level. And so like it's adding up, and the judge is like, if you've done more than 100 million at the end of this case, you are guilty, but we can stomach up to 100 million.
That's a hard limit.
The city council has the budget to cover the disaster and up to a limit. Like
this is exactly the kind of thing we're insured against.
The level of selection.
That's it. Insurance. Because the other thing is that like teenagers and young adults who like games, they love plots driven by insurance threats. So
yeah,
that's the other thing.
It's and there's a bit of Phoenix Wright shoved in there, so it's something you understand.
I think the level of selection is the prosecutor coming up and saying, Exhibit A, shopping mall. Exhibit B, buying a car. Okay. Exhibit C,
I like that.
The shoot it you buy at a museum.
I love the idea that every conversation in the game and like in the court takes place with people just screaming at the top of their lungs to try and shout over the noise of the gunfire.
And you have to just keep like slightly embarrassing shrugs.
I'm sorry.
You're like,
I'm so sorry.
And like pointing to the arm, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we get it." It's the arm. Maybe like the fewer people you kill, they then are like good character witnesses for you. Like they're there going, he didn't shoot me. I like him. He's nice.
Right,
like he made the best of a bad situation. But if you shoot everyone in a level, they're not there to make that case for you.
Yeah. If I had an infinity gun on my arm, I'd have done the same thing.
In my head, everyone talks to each other like when you're trying to communicate someone through a window. Do you know, it's a mixture of you're still speaking, but you're doing it in a weird way, and you're doing a series of hand gestures as well.
Oh yeah, a lot of mime.
Yeah, there's a heavy on the mime. In this world.
There'd be a lot of. I think you need a lot of motion capture, a lot of advanced mime tech to make this game a reality.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mime tech.
Mime tech is what. But that's. I mean, really, it's not really anything, but it's just one of those things you put on the box to make it sound a bit more advanced. Everyone's like mime tech.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen that before. It doesn't exist.
So, if the general structure of the game is this, the levels play out via a flashback. Like appeal in the courtroom. Is there a bit then, like perhaps after or towards the end of the game, where it's flipped and for the first time you get to shoot? You have to use the gun for its actual purpose.
Wow!
What, you like murder the judge?
Well, I don't know. Imagine if you find out who did this to you, or like,
or you have to in like the lab, right?
Yeah. Like you found where the cure is. It's in the bunker, the deep bunker of the science of the big tech building in the center of the city, and you have to go in there and fight your way through to get the cure or something.
It kind of presents a scenario though, where at the end of the court case, the judge is like, "You're not guilty, and you have the city's blessing to murder a man," which I don't think has ever happened in any court cases.
It's unprecedented.
No one's ever had a lot of firsts in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's
that's
quite an odd thing for a judge to decree.
I mean, he's not breaking a law by having a gun strapped to his hand that's firing infinitely. Then he's not going to break a law killing a guy with that gun strapped to his arm. I think this could be a massive like court drama game as well.
Could it be some kind of like double jeopardy thing? Is that how it works? You know, like when you can't charge
a husband and wife
arrested
for the same crime. Take to the sea.
Is that how? No, it's you can't be committed for the same crime twice or something. Is that how it works?
I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah. There was a film on it. There's a very old film
well enough where Alex is asking if you can be charged for crimes that you've done twice.
No, it's like if you murder someone.
He's robbed before. Did we? Yeah, no, he's fine. Yeah, he's robbed before.
You can't be guilty of murdering the same person twice. But
exactly. Yeah, it's something like some kind of loophole that allows you to then go and murder this guy and get the cure back, or to murder the entire building. Or there may be like I don't know,
extenuated circumstances. You know, that's the gavel goes down. Yeah. You're not guilty, but you do have to kill a man. It's time to work for the government. You need to lead the raid
to go and take out the guys strapping guns to people's arms
instead of sweeping up.
I think the final level, you catch up to the guy who can cure you, but then you get arrested just before you can like get it solved. So then you're in the court case, and then he's the final witness, and you're like, and then you have a choice at the end of the game. Do I shoot this final witness, Dr. Gun for Hands, or do I let him go?
If you don't, won't he cure you?
If you do, your arm falls off.
Right.
It's controlled by his mind.
Right, I see. Okay,
that's how
it's
it works.
A story about revenge and how sometimes it doesn't pay.
Well, revenge.
But in that case, I feel like you need to learn to accept
be a good
to keep
husband.
Right? Yeah.
That's an important part as well.
I feel like it should be learning to live with that. Right?
There's almost like a dual verdict, because there's the verdict of like, have you done too much damage to the city? And then there's the verdict of, does your wife think you are a good man? And so you could maybe win one but not the other. So like you could convince your wife but still go to jail. Like the best ending is like the judge is like, nice one, you're all right. And your wife is also like, you're a good man.
We are getting you on the script team, and you're going to be
Well, you know, like listen, I know, like I was spitballing there. That was off the top of my head. So I mean,
I've got the image in my head. Like, do you know
watched a lot of Law and Order?
Like he gets acquitted, and then he goes home, and it's like at the end of the first season of Mad Men when he comes home to an empty house, and he sits on the stairs in the darkness with a single lamp, but the gun is just constantly firing.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I like the other thing with the courtroom. And this is more just a little sight gag you could have. You could have at one point. Like, there's the court stenographer who's just having to write bang over and over again when she's writing everything that's happening. No. And she's just, like, really tired and, like, the whole time shaking her head. Like, come on, man.
With gun noise. Flash, like, the muzzle flash going off all the time. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
That.
Yeah.
Can you upgrade your gun? Like, is there something...
It upgrades itself.
By upgrading, I mean, like, can you silence? Can you? Obviously, silencers don't make it as quiet as they do in the films.
Is it or the golden gun?
Like, is there a progression like that? Or can you? Okay, so what about actually instead of upgrades? Do you know we said it evolves over time to more powerful weaponry? What if you could like step it back?
Oh, right? Okay.
So you can revert it back, and then whenever that you can see when it's going to maybe upgrade, or maybe you can't step it back. You can just extend the amount of time you have with this current like weapon before it. I feel like there needs to be an element of strategy there. Maybe that's a reason to explore a level via something.
Maybe it's just in the levels there's hidden collectibles that are hard to get to, and you pick them up and it just makes the game easier for you. There you go. Boom.
I feel like, if the game was like these levels,
you have to come back with a minigun to clear like a broken wall, and then then can you gain access.
If the game was just these levels, like you're going through the court proceedings, and like Tom says, you've got Exhibit A, Exhibit B, whatever, and then each one is just a level where you're going to have, this is the shotgun level. This is the level where I have to go to the kids' party with a shotgun, and how am I going to deal with that? This is the level where I have to go to the my wife's mother's grave with a rocket launcher, and so that also Alex, it kind of becomes like almost like a puzzle.
He's telling me that this game is an RPG. Okay, everyone went silent. Everyone really went silent. Tom started writing something down. I think he's writing me a death threat.
Making a list of all the bad things.
Next episode, no Chris.
Right, yeah.
Does this game become more of a puzzler? Like in a way, like you're trying to figure out how to navigate these levels. I guess is that similar to Octodad? You just have to you're figuring out how to navigate these levels.
There's definitely an element of that, but I think they're also. I mean, you can never make it too neat. Like it is the pitch of the game is kind of. You've got chaos on your arm, and like you've got to deal with that. I think if it's too kind of cute and polite, or there is like a fixed solution, it maybe loses some of its fun.
I see.
I almost like. Have you ever seen the 1960s Adam West Batman film?
Yes.
There's a scene where he's got a massive bomb and he's got to get rid of it, and everywhere he runs with the huge bomb, like there's like ducks in the water, and then there's like a load of nuns on a bench, and he's like, you just can't get rid of this bomb. It's kind of like that. Like maybe there's like a it's kind of arcadey and fast, but you are also having to make quick kind of moral calls about like. Shall I empty this rocket launcher into a pond and there's like a load of ducks in it, or shall I fire it at this grave?
Is there a time trial element?
I mean, maybe like you can unlock, different modes, kind of bit of replayability in there.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking more like, how like in like Devil May Cry and stuff, you get a time, but you also get rank based on flair style. Like, is that a thing that we can?
I think
or does that not come into the damage that you're doing?
That would tie into the damage quite nicely, in that like the higher the rank is basically the less kind of awful things you did with the gun while you were there. And that also then ties into the judge, where because he's like
the final score of the game.
The reason I asked about the time trial thing is because I came up with a name, but it only works if I feel like it only works if there's a time trial element, and the game is just called Arms Race.
Arms Race. I don't know. I think it's not me, it's the gun. Is the great?
Well, that's true. Yeah,
it's not me, it's the gun.
I feel like that's is it part of the kidnapper universe? Like the
Arms Race would be a great name for a mode in the game, maybe.
Yeah.
That's the time trial mode. Yeah.
And everyone's like, Arms Race, that's really good. Because that gets rid of like a lot of the moralizing and the kind of narrative depth. And it's just a little bit more like embraces the fun of the gun arm.
Yeah, but the main story is obviously depressingly dark.
Well, I think it can have. I think it should have moments of hope, sort of lightheartedness, where you're like, oh no, it's quite fun. You know, the idea of like a, you know, he's in like a something, I don't know, a bouncy castle emporium or something, and that's going to be quite daft and funny.
One place we didn't want him to go.
But then every now and then, it's a really, really grim level. Like you really wish you hadn't played it. Oh my god!
Yeah, well, well, you want those levels which are like next to the fun levels, because then in the court, everyone's like, "Oh, that was so fun!" That story of the bouncy castle emporium, and then the prosecutor's like, "Well,
yeah, but
you know,
don't forget
shelve that thought because he then went to an old people's home,
a retirement home.
Everyone's like, "Oh,
he went to Pets at Home." Oh,
I don't know why, but
he went to
really,
a coffee store.
I feel like your wife is at some fault for knowing that you have this infinity gun on your arm and still making you go through
but
this
she
list.
doesn't believe you because you're just telling her over the phone.
Yeah,
right.
She's like, that could be anything. That could be anything. You're like, it's a gun.
I don't believe you. Shut up. I feel like there should be a non-lethal
lie after lie after lie
mode as well, so you can just go through and it's fine to go to the pet store because it's just
It's like
Splatoon.
If we're trying to make a baby loser game, James, no, this is hardcore real life shit that's happening right now.
I've got to be honest as well. I think if you're smothering...
you don't want to smear the concept of the infinity gun like forever. So like having a fun mode where you're like, oh, I can see how that would be cool.
Well, we could bring back cheat codes. They've been a thing for quite a while now,
I love
right?
cheat codes.
Big head mode. Paintball gun mode.
Well, it makes it harder if everyone else has got a big head
mode.
Yeah.
Maybe, or you flip it so you're a gun with a human for an arm. No, that doesn't really.
Human for an arm. It just won't stop talking.
I love the idea that there's a cheat that is just limited ammo.
I mean, that's just what you've described is every other shooter. I mean, it's fine, but it has been done. It's really the infinity bullets that make this.
I feel like this the initial concept is so solid, and there are a million things you can do with it. I feel like we've got a pretty decent idea for a structure here, right?
Yeah.
What do you, Tom? Do you feel like you know enough about this game to give it a quick rundown of what we have?
Sure. Yeah, it's a game. At the very beginning of the game, it's told from the point of view of a judge telling the jury, "This is what happened. This is the beginning of the story. He went to a secret lab, and a gun was strapped to his arm, and he couldn't get it off, and it started firing infinitely. And then it pans to you in the courtroom, and you're just like holding your arm in the air as it's just firing repeatedly. And you're like, yeah, that's what happened. What's your defense? It's not me.
It's the gun.
It's the gun.
It's the gun.
Yeah, it's the gun.
Title comes up.
And the prosecutor comes along and is like, oh, yeah, well, you think this is really funny, him firing into the air with the RPG or a minigun or whatever. Well, here's Exhibit A, minimal. And he goes, and then you go to that level. At the very beginning, you're like on the phone to your wife. It's like, I have to explain. I have a gun for an arm. I can't pick up eggs. I can't pick up toilet roll. I have a gun on my arm. You can hear it. And she's like, no, I don't believe you. Lies after lies
Not
after
this
lies.
shit again.
Pick up the eggs, pick up the toilet roll, or we are done. And you have to get through the level as quick as you can without destroying as much as you can, and picking up the eggs and the toilet roll in the same time. And then when that level finishes, when you get out of there, Exhibit B. Fun level, the really fun level. You go to the bouncy castle emporium. And that's where you're buying stuff in prep for your kids' party. And then immediately you're like, kids' party? There's a kids' party later on in the game?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, just let that sink in there. That's a couple of levels down the line.
Yeah. And throughout the entire game, it's just the wife stuff feels like side missions. But when you get to the end of the game, if you don't do enough damage to the city and the judge deems you innocent and it was actually not you but the gun, then there's a second cutscene at the end where it's like, all right, how's the wife feel about this? And the best ending is innocent and your wife is happy with you. The worst ending is guilty and your wife doesn't visit you.
She never visits you, because she thinks she's never seen you with the gun, so she doesn't believe you.
Yeah.
So she's just she's done with you.
Why would she?
So she's never.
So she doesn't turn up for the court case.
She doesn't even turn up for the court case. She doesn't want to see. She's disgusted with you.
No, because you phone her up and you're like, I've been arrested for the gun on my arm, and she's like, oh, okay, all right,
sure,
you're really doubling down on that one. She just doesn't.
Honey, I was really confused when you shot up my child's party. Was she not there?
I don't know.
Okay,
you know I can't make it to the party.
How are you feeling about this? Do you think, are you pretty happy with the direction this game's taken? Are you okay for?
I think mechanically maybe it isn't entirely locked down, but I really like the narrative structure and framing of it for sure. I think that's quite a fun way to tell this quite sort of serious story.
It's very serious story.
Treats it with the respect it deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, make play? Would play? What are you thinking?
I mean, if we, I know again mechanically we hadn't really settled on anything, but I really like the idea of the Octodad. I love Octodad because it's not hectic unless you make it hectic, because you're thrown into these really mundane scenarios, and that is fun. And I think having just a gun, it makes it a bit. Of I was about to say a bit more high caliber, but that would be. I really like the idea. I think it's just mental.
Yeah, but it is.
I mean, what can you expect? This is like the Fast and the Furious of the games world. The I Love You, the Kidnapper verse, where weird, very strong narrative games happen with a very odd mechanics.
Yeah.
James,
would play, hands down. Enough said. It's golden.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
It's brilliant.
That's what I like to hear.
Holy shit. Tom, how are you feeling? I feel like we'll both play this, right?
Oh, we play it, yeah. I love the idea of an anti-shooter. I think it would be hilarious of just accidentally blowing out a window or accidentally shooting down an entire shelf in the shop when you're trying to control. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. I think it's really, really cool. And I love the idea of this turning into a very serious court drama as well. With twists, surprises. Maybe the scientist turns up and you're like trying to figure out what to do there. I think mechanically, we don't know how it's going to play out, but there's a million ways it could play out. It's either a VR game or it's a top-down twin-stick shooter, anti-shooter, or a first-person shooter, and you're just trying to look around, like you're trying to pick up the eggs while also not trying to blow away the eggs with the gun. I think it's great.
There's a million different things it could be. I 100%. Well, to be honest, just from the very basic pitch, you have an infinity gun. That's just funny. And the idea of doing this stuff, I think, like in my head, like I think the closest thing I can think is comparison is Octodad, just because of the idea that you are trying to do normal everyday things while having something very extraordinary and weird happen to you, or being very extraordinary and weird. And that, I think that then coupled with the courtroom drama, I think that could be something very unique.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know whether good, but who knows? That's up to the developers and everyone listening to this podcast who would then like to go and make a prototype and show it to us.
Yeah.
Matt, I think you've delivered us another slice of gold.
Yeah, 2 in a row.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, 2 in a row.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for being our first return guest. I hope we'll see more of you in the future if you have any more weird ideas
from the Kidnapperverse.
I'm going to be honest.
The Kidnapperverse, the extended Pit Kidnapperverse has to keep growing.
I'm going to be honest. You, at the start, you were calling this the troubling second album. I think I prefer this to I Love You, the Kidnapper. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, interesting. Well, like I said, it's a bit more mainstream. So,
that's the problem.
He's delivered.
Yeah,
he's absolutely delivered. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again for joining us. Everyone, thank you for listening to us. Please, if you have any ideas for pitches yourself, feel free to send them in. Tom, where can they send this to us?
They can send it to @PitchPlusPod. Pitch please without the vowels, pod with the vowels.
And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Beep, 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 beep.
Beep, 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 beep. It's like your gun noise.
I'm trying to say goodbye, but it's my gun.